Picture it. A museum gallery, white walls, serious lighting, someone standing with their hands behind their back, as if they have personally been asked to guard civilization. And above them all, something moves. A black shape turns. A red disc drifts past it. A shadow crosses the wall. Nobody touched anything. The air did, which means Alexander Calder convinced a museum to let the weather participate in the artwork. For thousands of years, sculpture stayed put. Then Calder arrived with wire, sheet metal, an engineering degree, a miniature circus, and no respect for sculpture's sedentary lifestyle. Welcome to Art Happens, the divine mess of art history, presented by J Squared Atelier. I'm James William Moore, and today, Alexander Calder, the man who made sculpture dance. Alexander Calder was born into a family of artists. His father was a sculptor, his mother was a painter, so naturally, Calder studied mechanical engineering. Because apparently, one way to rebel against your artist parents is to learn how pulleys work. But engineering became central to his art. Weight, tension, leverage, motion, counterbalance. The moment when a collection of metal parts stops looking alarming and starts behaving like it has a plan. Calder moved to Paris in 1926 and began constructing a miniature circus. From wire, wood, fabric, cork, rubber, and whatever else was useful. There were acrobats, clowns, trapeze artists, strongmen, horses, a lion tamer. Eventually, the operation filled 5 suitcases. Some people pack lightly. Alexander Calder traveled with an entertainment industry. The work became known as Cirque Calder. He operated the figures, changed the scenery, supplied sound effects, and introduced the acts like a ringmaster. The performances did not always go perfectly. A figure might miss a landing. A mechanism might resist. An acrobat might experience a sudden disagreement with gravity. Lord knows I have. That possibility of failure created suspense. The circus became Calder's laboratory. It taught him how movement could create drama, how balance could produce tension, and how an object could appear to possess personality. The mobile was already hiding inside the circus. It was just wearing a very small hat. Calder began making figures and portraits from bent wire. These works became known as drawings in space. A line left the page, entered the room, and became someone's face. Traditional sculpture created volume through mass. Stone, bronze, wood, clay. Calder could suggest a body without filling it in. He drew its edge in wire and let empty space handle the rest, which feels slightly like cheating. But it is very elegant cheating. Sculpture could now be transparent, open, almost weightless. Calder had begun taking mass away from sculpture. Soon he could take away its stillness too. In 1930, Calder visited Piet Mondrian's Paris studio. White walls, black lines, rectangles of primary color. Basically, Mondrian had climbed inside a Mondrian. Calder looked at the colored rectangles and imagined them moving. He reportedly suggested making the shapes oscillate. Mondrian was not persuaded. Apparently, he did not need a cheerful American engineer turning his studio into a wind chime. But the encounter changed Calder. He began producing entirely abstract work. No faces, no circus performers, no animals. Just color, shape, line, space, motion. Some early constructions used motors and cranks. Colored forms rotated. Balls traveled along wires. Calder had taken abstract painting off the canvas and given it somewhere to go. He argued that just as an artist could compose colors and forms, an artist could compose motion. Movement was no longer a special effect. It continuously remade the sculpture. Time had become part of the composition. In 1931, Marcel Duchamp named Calder's moving sculptures mobiles. The French word suggests both motion and motive. Clever, elegant, bilingual. Very Duchamp. Then Jean Arp asked what Calder would call the sculptures that did not move. Those became stabiles. Modern art, radical experimentation, the collapse of centuries of tradition, and occasionally a really solid dad joke. Over time, Calder moved away from motors. Motors were predictable. Air was different. Air has commitment issues. It enters through a door, changes direction, disappears, then returns when it feels like it. By suspending carefully balanced forms, Calder created sculptures that responded to the slightest current. He established the conditions that would improvise. A Calder mobile may appear effortless. Effortless is a liar. Every element matters: the weight, the length of the rod, the pivot point, the counterbalance. This is called dynamic equilibrium, which is an impressive technical phrase meaning everything is fine until one part is not fine. The force that usually makes sculpture heavy became the reason his sculpture felt light. And he did not hide the structure. We can see the wires, rods, and counterweights. The sculpture practically explains how it works. But somehow, it still feels magical. The magic survives the explanation. Traditional sculpture occupied space. Calder's mobiles activated it. A door opened. Someone walked past. The ventilation system began doing whatever ventilation systems do. The sculpture responded. The room was no longer a neutral container. It became part of the art. Shadows moved, shapes overlapped and separated, empty spaces opened and closed. There was no permanent front, no final arrangement, no moment when the mobile announced, "Yes, this is my good side, you may photograph me now." The work changed while we looked at it. The sculpture one visitor saw was not exactly the sculpture the next visitor would see. Calder had not merely taken sculpture off its pedestal, he changed the agreement between the artwork and the world. And yet his work was sometimes dismissed as merely playful. Art history can be suspicious when an artist appears to be enjoying themselves. We understand suffering. Suffering gets biographies. Suffering gets dramatic lighting. Suffering gets called profound. Suffering gets painted. But fun risks are called decorative. Calder destroys that distinction. His work is playful, but it is not careless. The freedom depends on structure. The delight depends on discipline. The dance depends on engineering. Play was not Calder's escape from serious thought. It was his method of serious thought. His mobiles transformed movement, time, and air into artistic materials. Calder reminds us that experimentation does not have to look miserable to matter. Sometimes joy is rigorous. Sometimes the revolution is having a good time. Alexander Calder did not simply make sculpture move. He made gravity a collaborator. He made air a material. He made empty space visible. His mobiles look free because the balance is exact. They look effortless because the engineering is hidden inside the dance. And they feel alive because they respond to the world around them. Before Calder, sculpture usually stood apart from the room. After Calder, the room could enter the sculpture. The artwork could shift, pause, turn, breathe. Calder did not create sculpture that would remain perfect forever. He created sculpture that would never stop becoming. He did not just take sculpture off the pedestal, He taught it how to fly! Or, at least how to hover very convincingly. This has been Art Happens, the divine mess of art history, presented by J²Atelier. I'm James William Moore, your chaotic docent through art history. If you enjoyed this episode, send it to your favorite art nerd, your favorite engineer, or anyone who personally might be improved by being gently rotated. Actually, don't do that. The legal department has concerns. Until next time, keep looking closer, and if a sculpture starts moving above you, don't panic. It's probably art.